This is probably going to be the most important tip I give anybody in terms of trying to get to Diamond. Just received this comment in the Discord about a guy that's 3 wins away from Challenger, and I just covered this Platinum jungler who's now Emerald and well on his way to Diamond. The common thread between both junglers will be shown in this video. It's from a game the other day where I helped a jungler realize that he was being the proactive jungler and all of a sudden let randomness take over his mind. So we have here a Rengar versus an Elise, the runes you would have seen on your screen. The most important part about this video is that the Elise has total and utter domination. The Rengar does some quote-unquote random things, and all of a sudden most junglers think, how can they get rewarded by this? How am I meant to carry this and track this when I have no idea what he's doing, and seemingly he has no idea what he's doing? So I think assessing that is the most important thing. First off, obviously we're doing the red side quadrant clear that we covered on Tuesday, Wednesday, showcasing why this is the best clear in all of League of Legends. We're finishing off Raptors to go gank mid lane. Renekton, very strong champion versus Katarina. Shisha goes in, goes for a trade. We're watching this while we're clearing, right? We're looking at this. We would love to rotate and help her here, but we need to be level 3. That's our spike. So if you look at this from a jungle perspective, you look at the range between the Elise and the Katarina, you're probably not necessarily going for this gank. And in fact, I had doubts as well. And of course, your bottom lane has died in the meantime. And we are showcasing such high-level patience here, waiting for the wave. We need room for the cocoon, and we have to trust the Katarina to chuck the dagger such that we can go in. We move, we're going to hit on Neurotoxin, keep auto-attacking after we chuck a Spiderling, wait for him to position for the free cocoon, and go in, trade, take all. We know the Renekton's going to be looking for the Katarina, who's patient as well. A really, really nice change of events for the Elise and for the Katarina also. Now in these cases, what I used to do with Rek'Sai is we used to love shoving this out, get to denial, she gets to reset, that's wonderful. This should reach, which it does. Now, from the Rengar's perspective, we know the guy started topside, he's sequencing down. That's all we know from Elise's point of view. We look at the top lane now, we see the Alawi shoving in the Camille a little bit, which is going to happen, so the wave isn't going to be primed in juice. We had to go ahead and do our blue to regenerate the mana and obviously gain some HP back. All of this is fine, but the most important part about this top lane trade, as we see the Rengar is down here finishing his full clear at 333, which is unholy slow, terrible rune set. What's the Alawi? What is she doing? Boom, boom. That's a ward, which means now you know you could actually invest the time to go around the top should you believe this is truly a gankable lane. At the same time, if you're not in high elo, you are probably expecting the laners to not even realize that you're rotating up. And of course we have the scanner in our kit. So we know it's warded, we don't need to use our scanner, that's the waste, and the Alawi should just back off. This should be okay, right? But Alawi's body language here is very, very important. While most top laners should survive this, she's actually going to move down to the brush. And a high-level Elise player will immediately hit this cocoon, not walk the other way. You hit this cocoon, it guarantees the hook shot from the Camille, guarantees the smite damage, and 99% the Alawi is going to flash. And while you could use your flash if you're the Elise, you won't need to. You can just use your repel directly onto target and get, of course, the bonus damage and healing from that, ability, which most people don't do. They always use a repel on weird things instead of just onto the target to get bonus damage and bonus healing. So what happens is the Camille decides to go and misses the hook shot. The Elise then follows up and will hit the cocoon. That's nice. What should the Alawi have done to avoid this gank? Flash, respect the cocoon. End of story. We'll leave that fat juicy wave and we'll go down here. What is the Rengar doing from our perspective? Full clear down. Scuttle Crab, back to base. We see on the scoreboard here that he has in fact done that. From Elise's perspective, we don't know that. But what he knows is that we showed top lane with 17 and a blue buff, and we know we showed mid lane with 12. So we've definitely done the blue buff, and we're going to fall back down and of course take this one for 21. We know the Rengar's going to go ahead and do his red side here, but he might cut in if this is gankable, unlikely, and then potentially cut down onto the minimap and gank bot lane. That would be a reasonable assumption for the Elise at this state. Also, we're Elise, we're Rek'Sai. Most important for us is we think, from our perspective, we are ahead of tempo. We think the Rengar is going to be here. We are now here. He can't really do much about this because look at that again. And the Renekton has moved down to scan in a weird way. Who knows why? Don't know what he's scanning. Don't know what he's checking. But it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. No one's been down there to ward, and we know the Elise is topside. So we can just sit in the bush and wait and then go for the nice gank. Remember? Hit your spells. Obviously here the cocoon goes sideways because we get stunned, but that would lead us to most likely get another kill, and that Katarina will be rolling. Now, because we know the Rengar's gonna— wait a second, what? And now your brain explodes. Why would a guy full sequence down take Scuttle, go back to base, and then show bottom lane again? What is his logic? Well, bottom lane is pushing. Obviously there's a ward there, but bottom lane is pushing. So he's just gonna walk on down and think he can do something. We see this, we know he's going to clear it, the Nautilus should just not go in. But, as we can observe, watch your bot lane, goes in. We get the root. Postures up to the left where Rengar can actually reach him, goes back in again, gets hooked by the Renata. Now he's in a bit of a precarious spot because he gets Ebola'd and killed. Exhaust is lost. He had flash available as well to respect it. This is what stops most people climbing in any way. And I'm not joking. If you are mid elo, if you are low elo, if you're in between elo, whatever elo you are, if you want diamond, you've got to respect flash these events. You've got to understand these things, why the Renekton did what he did and why it was dumb, why the Alawi didn't respect flash the Cocoon, which he should have, and why Nautilus goes in even though he should have. The Rengar, though, decided, hey, I can do this and trail the Elise, or I can just get ahead of her and go gank bot lane. This isn't actually a good decision. It's high variance. It's a bad decision. Why? Because we have 0 camps on the bottom side. This wolf camp isn't going to spawn until about 5 minutes 10. Well, 5 minutes to 5 minutes 10, right? These camps are available from Elise, but we just saw Elise go through mid lane. Now, she didn't show up here when we left the base, but that doesn't mean it's a good play. The idea that you could leave base here, gank bottom lane, and counter jungle the Elise with a kill and assist coming out of base potentially to do this as well, you're going to meet. And you're going to have bad luck if you do that and you're the Rengar. However, it pays off, and it shouldn't have paid off, but it does. From the Elise's perspective, that's kind of random. So what she does, once she sees that, is look, the Renekton's low, I can definitely move to this, but I know the Rengar's going to move through the river here with a reset I don't have. I also don't want to go back to base right now because I know the Rengar could then counter jungle. Wouldn't again be the smartest decision, but that's probably what he was thinking of doing. An extreme version of the outside in rule, and then he could fall back to this. High variance play with high risk, high reward, and a bit random. Not strategically sound. So she takes her camps to protect him, and we know the Rengar's going to be in the river. We see this. We can extrapolate this because he's got nowhere else to be. Now he shows, which is perfect, which is why you want to kite this stuff down and be smart about it. We see him with 30. Boom, 31. Chucks a bowler to stop the base, and he'll take a 32. And we watch him very carefully F-keying while we go back to base once we finished our Raptors. He's going topside with 32 CS. Where do you think he's going to go next? I think most of us understand that he's going to go to the camp here, and then maybe try and lane gank or gank this one. It's a Camille, she's 6. Not exactly the easiest thing to do, not exactly the smartest thing to do, but so far that's what we know in the game. Elise is going to go back to base now. We'll go topside where she has camps and an RNG scuttle, where she also knows a Rengar might be so she can counter gank. Okay? Everything we've discussed so far, she has control, she has tempo, she has denial from her mindset. The Rengar has done random things, high risk, high reward, to try and counteract that and get ahead of it. Does it always make sense? No. Should he have gotten anything here? No, not at all. This was terrible, terrible pathing, and he benefited from the elo range. The higher you go, the less you will benefit. Elise does the gromp into the walls, because that's one quadrant. We can loop to the mid lane. We can always cut back up and loop to top lane, but we look at this and we're like, we know Rengar's most likely going to be lane ganking this, because what else would he do? He can go wrap his Krugs and path all the way down again, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. And in the live session, I basically said, look, he must be topside. That's just what Rengar's want to do with a lane gank here. Given that he did a random thing here, that's the logical extrapolation, and I think he's driven more by hormones and randomness than he is by some sort of jungling savant knowledge. However, the whole point of saying there is no such thing as randomness, oh, look, hello, is that there isn't such thing as randomness from their perspective, because he has a reason for it in a way, right? It's a warped reason, it's a weird reason, but he has one. And of course, as soon as he shows, you press tab, you see 40 CS, you know he did Raptors into Krugs. You quickly push the Raptor camp down, well, the Scuttle camp down as it were. You make sure you body it, a little risky there, but we take it. And now we see the Renekton pushing mid lane for all time. We're watching the Rengar while we do this. If we go for this, it's a 2v2. Do we win? Are we confident? If you're not, just don't make the play. Your PvP confidence is something you have to develop. Rengar's going to clear this now, get to 41 CS. Where do you think he's going next now? Elise is moving down because she knows he's going to go to his red, or he's just going to cut down, ignore his red and do this. But what jungler below Master Plus will ever ignore a red buff in this situation? In fact, no one's ignoring a red buff right now because it makes the most sense. So while Elise wanted to gank bottom lane, unfortunately they're losing and basing, so she can do her red, right? We spend that time investing in camps while we can't actually do anything on the map. We do have in pocket 582 gold, so nothing to really scoff at. We get 6. We look at the Renekton versus Katarina here. We know now that the Rengar has 2 decisions. If he takes the red, he can base, or he can sequence down and carry on farming because he also doesn't have a lot of gold. We see in game that he stays out with 1,000 gold in pocket. We don't know this in-game. Remember that, right? That's the benefit here. We can see, in the game, the Elise cannot. And in-game, you have to think like this and extrapolate two possibilities, yes? What's the one that's strategically sound? What's the one that's random? Rengar should go back to base after doing the first scuttle, and then go to his Krugs and Raptors. But he could also randomly just go bottom side just for the gank. That's a logical assumption from the randomness point of view, if you can follow my meaning. So what happens is the Elise decides to go back to the mid lane here. Katarina has Death Lotus, we have Cocoon, all we have to do is hit it. And we do not, but he uses the minions this time to block, but it doesn't matter. He has no flash. Free kill, easy kill. And now we know, because the Rengar still hasn't showed yet, no one's on the dragon. I hate that ward. I would hit this to let him know that we know, but at the same time, you don't want to be detected as an Elise yet. We're scanning to ensure there's no vision control whatsoever. We're going to sync up with the Nautilus. We won't hit this to find out where the Rengar is. So we can execute this gank. Why? So we can get ahead of the Rengar again. Tempo control ahead of the Rengar at all costs. So this is what we're going to do. Wow, what a hook. Incredible. We'll have to flash Cocoon this one, but we will do so. And that's a dead Ezreal. And this is the kind of pressure I'm talking about quite a lot in all my content. You're an Elise. Hey, if you're anybody, if you can force a jungler who's going to full clear first rotation into these suboptimal decisions, you're going to win a lot of games. However, if we tracked Rengar to be on the bottom side, whether he based or sequenced there, would he still not be there? Would he still not be close to 6? Because of course he did experience Leash a little bit here, and he did experience Leash a little bit here. So we're going to Krugs. What would you do after Krugs in your mind? Think about it very quickly. Because we have multiple options. We can stay and shove this bottom lane out, knowing that Rengar's most likely on the blue. We can do this Krug camp and then resequence into the brush to counter gank the potential gank he might do, but then again, that wastes a lot of time. Or we can just go up to the Raptor camp, knowing we want to finish that, repeat gank mid lane, and trust that a bottom lane won't die. Which one do you think is going to be the best play? And also, I left one out. From my perspective, what I like to do is do the Krugs and then shadow back in. Mostly because what happens is the bottom lane takes so long to push here, the enemy bot lane is able to arrive in time, Rengar syncs up with them, and you're just sitting in the bush for the counter gank. It's just a read play on the randomness because, again, it's not really random. You're starting to understand the reasons of the Rengar's existence. Alternatively, you could just say, Nautilus, hey, let's shove this up a bit. Let's go invade his blue, yeah? Let's go. We can do that. And if we can just shove him out, cool. If we can beat him and kill him, cool. And then we can translate to mid lane and obviously pay attention to Renekton's roams. That's more of the aggressive play. And then in theory, you could go Raptors, Krugs, and gank again, but in most cases, you probably want to go up to the Herald. This is what happens. They're going to push this up nice and slow. You could help them push it up if you feel like they want to base here, but the Jhin had, like not that much in pocket. You know he's going to stay out. So because you know the bottom lane's going to stay out and Renata does show up here, right? If you were to, say, be in this situation right now, you could actually get that assist there, move into the river, and you'd push off the Rengar if he shows. The Nautilus thinks about this for a second. There's Rengar. We press tab, we see 57, we know exactly what he's done all the way down. We know he has his blue, we know he hasn't based, while we do the Raptors. We relinquished control onto the Rengar, he's able to get those kills, and then obviously, as you see, slide into that brush. In the meantime, while we're watching that, we're like, well, all of this is okay, by the way. I'm gonna explain in a second. Go back, now we hit the Cocoon, now he's going to die, although it's a little close. There we go, all right? So now the Elise has basically said, look, I'm 203, I have 5 out of 8 KP, I have 54 CS. What exactly are we going to be doing now that allows us to maintain control from the Rengar honestly getting benefit from randomness, and then from a bot lane kind of not respecting it at all? But we knew it was going to happen. It doesn't matter. If you think your bottom lane should base in these scenarios, a lot of the time, if you know the jungle's there and you have a lead, go do something about it. And if you can't do anything about it, and you're going to trust them, then there has to be a better play. Random plays often have a counterplay, and that's usually the strategic better play. So now we look at our gold, we have 1500 in pocket. We saw Rengar go back to base. So if Rengar sequenced from here, where we saw him, down here, yank this and goes back to base to spend his gold, yes? Where is he going to go next? Most likely, he's going to go to the top side. Whoa, top side, wow, okay. We can now go straight to the Herald and try and sneak that sucker away, assuming he doesn't try and collapse in on us. He has no ultimate, which is huge. We have Prior, which is huge. And we have Katarina, who needs to base. So what we could do is go ahead and spend our 1500 cash money gold, hightail to the top side and contest this. We have our plant active here in the form of a Scry's Blue. We could see what's going on, right? And then you can assess the fight that you need to take. And obviously, it's really good to let people start up Heralds in suboptimal conditions. because if you can then collapse on them, that's always a W for us. And if he's not on it, obviously you can just farm your camps and then assess another play. What she does though is hedges. Hedges control because the Rengar twice got rewarded for randomness. So she goes to the blue. She hits the plant to see if he's there, but now she cannot contest because the guy would have reset and we have not. Katarina's in base and we are not able to fight this because Camille is now being pushed in again. All of a sudden we've lost control. So what's Rengar going to do from our perspective? From our perspective, he's going to go ahead and most likely do the Herald, right? That's what we think. We think he's going to do the Herald. We hedged our decision here and let the randomness control us. We went from proactive to reactive. We let the bottom lane kills he got dictate our next plays, instead of saying, hey, we can actually go ahead and do this. We have this. And if he shows up, you do your PvP assessment. The game is ultimately going to be about PvP at some point, but I think a gold reset with 1500 into a contest, if it's possible, is fine. And Rengar's not going to want to run at an Elise without his ultimate. We all know this. What's he going to do with no brushes? Right? Elise can fight without the brushes, she has Cocoon and everything. It's not good for Rengar. What we see is Rengar actually go to the top rush here after the top side quadrant just to finish his Ghost Blade, because he probably thinks that the Elise is already on this and about to kill it. Elise says, hey, Rengar must be taking it because I cannot take it now, because I hit the plant and there was no one there, so he must be going to it. Let me go bottom lane to get ahead of him again. And now, this is where it totally falls apart. Here we go. Hello, bot lane. Now, the fact that they kill each other is irrelevant. You can't control that. Oh, Rengar's ulting. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, dear me. We're going to repel that bola. That hook's going to hit. The Spider Link's going to do some damage. We're going to queue onto the Rengar. He gets smited, and we neurotoxin him. Burning, burning. Nothing happens, and Renekton shows up with Katarina in tow. The Elise stopped being proactive. She started being reactive to what she perceived as randomness. And while it is random, while they weren't good decisions, remember, a rewarded bad decision doesn't make it a good decision. That's just results-based. But the Elise here basically was saying, and again, this was an actual session, so I know that she wanted to get ahead of the Rengar because he should be doing the Herald. But we should have been doing the Herald, and he thought we were doing the Herald, so both players made suboptimal decisions, met at the same place, and the one champion lost their advantage over the other champion, despite the fact that she was controlling, and now we go do some PvP sadness. This is obviously not the best play to make. We know the Renekton's strong. 0-4-0, it don't matter, that champ's a little broken, just a little bit. But we still shouldn't go for it. And from this point onward, they're able to snack this here dragon. Pull back to this, 2-0-3, and they just start steamrolling the game. And the Elise doesn't play well the rest of the game. That's the straight up truth. Look at this. We'll jump ahead. That's it. The whole map's been shoved in. Because we took away our tempo advantage, because we stopped being proactive and let the enemy jungler's randomness and reactivity put us in a box. So when you are thinking about climbing, from low elo to gold to diamond, the most important thing is if you have control over the game, if you have tempo over the game, if you have the proactive jungling, please keep that pressure up and don't let the possibility of randomness skew what your game plan was. And if you're wondering how to use that red stack clear in different ways for more optimizations, click the video in the box on the top right to learn all about jungle clears.